All right, looks like we're live. Welcome, everyone. I'm back here with another Infinite Layers. Today, we're talking to the Redstone team who just launched on EigenLayer mainnet yesterday, but they've been working on their product for a long time. I've known Marcin for a long time as well. So really, really honored and excited to be having him here today. And we're also joined by Charles from EtherFi. So I'd like for you guys to do a quick round of intros, and then we'll dive into the topic.
Thanks, Nader. Yeah, so let me kick off if I can. Marcin, co-founder at Redstone. We've been building the Oracle for 4 years right now. So we've seen quite a lot of advancement in technology. And one of the major one that we've been waiting for a very long time is restaking. And right now we are showcasing with the launch of the AVS that this technology, in fact, is extremely useful and applies very well into the Oracle game. Happy to talk about that a bit later. I joined crypto in 2017. Initially started in a company, understand architecture as much as possible, enjoy talking with developers, builders, and supporting them day to day. And as for Redstone, we are the fastest growing Oracle in the market right now, specializing in yield-bearing assets. So anything that gives you yield over time, this is where our bread and butter is, supporting over 70 chains, over 130 clients right now. And right now also working with EigenLayer on the restaking game together also with EtherFi. So Charles, passing to you.
Yeah, awesome. Chiming in here. So Charles function as head of ecosystem for EtherFi, oversee the DeFi integrations, incentives, cross-chain strategies, as well as most importantly for this discussion, restaking. I've known the Redstone team for a while, and quite excited to see their launch on the AVS side and Eigen, and quite excited to support them coming live as we tie together on a lot of different fronts of bringing utility out into DeFi through their oracles.
Awesome. So you kind of gave a quick intro to Redstone, Marcin, already, but can you talk a little bit more about what sets Redstone apart and why you all have had success so far, and maybe also kind of like some light thoughts and plans about the future?
Of course, happy to. So this conversation to me is extremely special because we've never known each other for quite a while. I think we met first time when you were at Celestia, or maybe even a bit earlier.
Maybe even the graph.
Oh, the graph, correct.
Yeah.
Long way, right? So the graph, Celestia, Lens and Ave, right? And EigenLayer. So interestingly enough, at each of those companies, Redstone had a touch point. So the graph, or rather Edge and Node, is an investor in Redstone. We do work with Celestia as on the DA layer and supporting a lot of their L2s that are utilizing Celestia itself. On Lens, we are only Chainlink, and Redstone is supporting Lens chain that launched on top of ZK Sync. And we also were the first Oracle to support Go, the stablecoin of Aave.
Oh, wow.
And now we launched on EigenLayer, first tested, and now yesterday mainnet. So the story is pretty interesting, right? A lot to unwrap. Yeah, so about Redstone specifically, the biggest advantage of ours in the Oracle game is flexibility. And we get that via modular design. So the story goes 2020 was when Jacob, the technical founder of Redstone, attended many hackathons. He won a couple, in example, New York Blockchain Week in 2020. And he couldn't bring to production the ideas he had on hackathons because of Oracle's limitations. At that time, it was mainly Ethereum and only a handful of assets that were supported. Whenever he asked about something more sophisticated, like interest rate or something that is not ETH or Bitcoin price feed, it bounced back saying, hey, it's too expensive or it's going to take months to get delivered. So his first thought was, okay, let's create an Oracle that's scalable, that actually can support thousands of chains eventually, unlimited number of assets, and the custom implementations that builders need as the ecosystem evolves. So that's the reason the architecture of Redstone is very lightweight with distinct modules separated from each other and a lot of infrastructure being utilized across many chains. So how Chainlink operates is on every chain that they go to, they have to redeploy end-to-end infra. So it's a separate module for every single chain they go to. Whereas with Redstone, 3 out of 4 modules are shared across every single chain we go to. And the 4th module, which is the end delivery layer, has to be updated depending on the virtual machine we are working with. If it's EVM, it's shared across EVMs. If it's SVM, then we can share it across SVMs, and so on.
Got it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think it makes especially sense from the perspective of a developer that, like you said, actually ran into this problem at a hackathon, because the idea of a world where we have the ability to kind of like build out new pieces of architecture and new services that are specialized and do things that are not maybe available elsewhere means that we need all of the other supporting infrastructure like around it to make that happen, right? Or if someone wants to launch their own rollup and they need the ability to essentially interact with these price feeds and have DeFi, you know, in the past, the biggest challenge was dealing with like a lot of these larger Oracle companies that charge you, you know, millions of dollars sometimes to even build an integration, which immediately just restricts the innovation that can happen. So the general idea, to my understanding, is like just like a much lower barrier to entry to kind of get integrated with Redstone, and you all are just able to move faster and do more.
You summarized it very well. I mean, probably you should stay in Eigenlayer, but if you ever thought about, moving forward, that was a good
Tell
pitch.
me, how does EtherFi fit into all of this?
Yeah, so EtherFi has been the first liquid restaking token that we supported in terms of like the price feed. Back in 2023, even like December 23, I think was the moment we delivered the price feed integration. And ever since, we've been expanding on many of the ecosystems and chains. Naturally, EtherFi is a big player for Eigenlayer, so it was a pretty natural also choice. But there is also one more additional caveat to that is the first mainnet implementation of our AVS is delivering data not to Ethereum mainnet because it's pretty expensive. And also on Ethereum mainnet, it didn't make that much sense to start with. We deliberately chose Base as the ecosystem that we are delivering the restaking secured Oracle data feeds because we believe it's a breeding ground for DeFi innovation and also a close partner of both Eigenlayer and EtherFi. But we're also happy to hear from Charles, like how you've envisioned like this expansion of EtherFi.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just to give a quick intro on the EtherFi side. So our objective is really to be the one-stop shop for managing your portfolio, your assets across DeFi. So we have kind of 3 main product pillars. Got our humble beginnings kind of as a LRT on the Eigen side, and have pushed those out beyond ETH, even over to BTC and stables, and partnering with some of the other call it DeFi titans in the industry, like Lombard on BTC and Athena on stables. Outside of that, and you can think of that as sort of your savings product, where you can just park assets and you have kind of the lowest risk and best kind of reward rate. Over on the what we call liquid side, you have DeFi vaults, which are actively managed and kind of spread across the whole ecosystem, searching for different opportunities across the spectrum for some kind of older blue chip protocols such as Aave, or even potentially some newer ones, whether it be new dApps or new ecosystems. And that's essentially just a one-way click to be able to park those assets and squeeze out a bit more yield. But what's most exciting here too is the recent launch of EtherFi Cash, which is a credit card product which we'll be bringing out to both corporate and retail. And the neat part there is, from a synergistic standpoint, you'll be able to utilize all of your assets, whether they're parked in the LRT side or in a DeFi vault, as collateral for spending as well as borrowing against with the card. So ultimately, without this, we wouldn't be able to get where we were in terms of DeFi integrations, in terms of general TVL capture, without our great infrastructure partners. And so, as Marcin mentioned, we had worked together very early on, before kind of a majority of our growth on our end. And they've been instrumental in being sort of one of our fastest as well as most secure providers whenever we do go cross-chain. And so from our point of view, it's always a bit of balance between the risk and reward of being opportunistic, launching on new chains. For example, we've supported the recent Barachain kind of pre-launch, have been quite successful there, capturing over 700 million in deposits and around 25% of the TVL so far, and expect to utilize Redstone not only on Barachain but on upcoming launches as well.
Something I've always noticed about EtherFi is you obviously have like a great idea and a great product, but the amount of effort that you all put into like UX on your actual outward-facing website and products is also just a lot better, an order of magnitude better almost than almost anything else out there, like relative to crypto for the most part, right? So I'm curious, and this is a little bit off topic, but how does that fit into the general like culture and leadership there in terms of like that type of polish? I'm assuming that they're very detail oriented, or is that you all just have like great web developers and designers there?
No, I would say we actually have quite a small front end team, all said. With that, it's really just a culture of putting users first, and all of us are kind of testers and users of our own products as well. And so I think there's a lot of complicated topics that we attempt to simplify. And so whether that be kind of the depth of restaking or the landscape of DeFi, we want to kind of transform that into a way where we distill all that information and we allow easy access through a button or two to get into it and a button or two to get out. And so really with that, I think we've always taken a mindset of not only transparency, but being first to reduce friction, whether that be, for example, on the Eigen side, being one of the first few LRTs to enable kind of withdrawals for easier ins and outs of the system, or even on as saying with the credit card upcoming, some of the collateral asset types and simplification of the UX so that users will be able to onboard, and we are working on this through a bank account as well. And so you'll have a whole host of different ways to kind of get access and get into our ecosystem.
Very nice. Yeah. And if you're watching and you haven't used EtherFi, I recommend just going to their website, clicking around and checking out the design. It's just really good. Okay, Marcin, I want to go back on the topic of like Redstone and the creation of Redstone. So your founder or are you the co-founder, I guess?
Yeah, so Jacob is the technical one. He started everything, and then I was one of the first to support him from go-to-market side. Interestingly enough, for over a year, I was the only non-technical person in the team, so that was a fun one.
So he identified an opportunity to build something that's better than what existed before, and you met him and you agreed with this, so you came on board. But building something to compete with some of these like much larger and ingrained players that have been here for years is just like an enormous task. So what made you think this is the place that I want to spend the next couple of years and try to solve the problem? Like, talk about it from the perspective of someone who, has been in the space. You understand a lot of things. You had a lot of opportunities, and this is the opportunity you chose. And you've been doing this now for a while, and you're now seeing like some success. Just curious to hear that path and that story.
Of course. I think initially, okay, I used to work at Google Cloud at the time that Jacob, reached out to me, and it was a fairly simple decision. And there are three aspects for that. One, Jacob, okay, I'm going to say it live. So Jacob is a genius in my opinion. And I truly call very few people in my life like genius. I call a lot of people like talented, smart, or I don't know, many other adjectives. But for being a genius, it's something special. You need to combine both the engineering technical skills, but also the people mindset and being able to speak with people, deal with hard problems, negotiations, legal stuff. There's a lot of that things that you have to also unbundle as you create a startup. So I believe that was something that in the very beginning made me confident that this is also a person I would like to hop onto this journey train that can go for literally like tens of years even. Like, some companies thrive like very, very long time. Second reason was it was a big market. So Chainlink at the time was the biggest player, and it was fairly monopolized back then. I believe we've done a really good job like breaking through the monopoly and now being a provider that gets being asked as the first one whenever people want to go cross-chain. For example, Berachain, Monad, or even Unichain that is launching fairly soon, Inc, Sonic, many of those are popping out. And we are, for majority, the first oracle of choice when people want to go to those ecosystems. And I believed over then that this is the way to go, like more than just one provider. And the third reason was, I think, big challenge, right? I'm a kind of a person that works. So there's a concept of grit that I love in general. Grit is this combination of passion and dedication, being persistent in a specific goal or direction. And this is something that has defined me throughout the years. And I saw it as a big opportunity when we were hopping on to the Redstone. And I'm super happy with that. And, I would say it's still very early in our journey. The big milestone is coming soon. We started also like being a bit, let's say, bolder about communicating that because we've been building for 4 years. So it's also time to further decentralize the ecosystem of the network, which we also are doing with EigenLayer on the restaking front.
There are a couple of topics I want to touch on. One are around the current like blockchain VM wars that you kind of like see happening almost, and then the other is around AI. So I'll start with the VMs. You mentioned that you not only support EVM but other alt VMs. You support the Ethereum ecosystem, but you also support Berachain and all these other emerging ecosystems. How do you feel about I would say the current like adoption of traditional VMs like the EVM versus alt VMs like SVM and MoveVM? Where do you kind of see that headed? And what is your like I would say approach to dealing with the Solana ecosystem? Do you guys work with the Solana ecosystem as well? And is that something that you all have thought a lot about?
Very good question, very timely one. I like Ethereum personally, and I like layer 2s, and I would say in general, everything that is happening around the Ethereum ecosystem. But EVM, like Ethereum Virtual Machine, is not necessarily like bounded to Ethereum itself, right? Which we see with Monad, Berachain, even Sonic, right? All of those are EVM compatible. And here, one thing I really love is the standardization. So in a sense, like not making fragmented next type of technology that people are not familiar with, but something that is fairly out of the box. You can just take it and use it. And to give you a good anecdote, we give tributes to Chainlink for a lot of innovation they brought to the space. For example, the push model V3 aggregator that they created. We also create the push model, like the push model of Redstone is 100% compatible with Chainlink. And the reason initially it wasn't, like initially we wanted to do it like a bit differently, but then we were like, we go to talk to builders and they tell us, hey, we want that, but on more chains with more assets, quicker, cheaper, and just better in general, but we want that. And we're like, all right, why we shouldn't keep banging our head against the wall. We should just listen to them and deliver that. And it became a standard. I mean, that discussion I told you about was about, let's say, 2 years ago, 1.5. And right now we just tell them, hey, this is the address of the push model. And they even don't go into the documentation. Everyone is so familiar with that it just goes without saying, this is how you use it. With the pool model, it's a bit different, right? Because pool model is you deliver the data together with the transaction of a user. This is where Redstone and PIF pioneered that model, and they differ a bit. But I believe over a year or two, it's going to be standardized as well, right? It's going to be like pool model. Okay, so tell me these 3 components, how they are configured, and I'm going to just roll with it almost without looking at the documentation. At least I hope this is going to be the word. And speaking specifically about other VMs, I like that they kind of become more and more standardized in a sense. When you go to those alternative L1s back in the days, let's call them Near, Cardano, or some others, like I don't even know, sorry for my ignorance, like if there's a name for Near VM, right? I think it's Rust based, but I don't remember like what's the name on top of it. On Cardano, it was, I believe, Haskell, but there's no like Cardano VM to my knowledge. And here, Ethereum started the game of Ethereum Virtual Machine, not necessarily bounded to Ethereum itself, but creating a standard that is replicated. And now Solana with SVM, Aptos, Sui movement with MoveVM is also like replicating that. Though I know between Sui and Aptos there are some differences. There are no like one-to-one compatible, but at least the same category. I believe this notion is pretty good, right? Because then, especially for the new developers, and we should all think about how to grow the whole pie, it's very much useful that they just hear like familiar name and they know how to go about it. And yeah, as mentioned in our model, we just need to tweak the final integration part. So for example, we did it also for Ton. We have Ton connector. And this one we cannot replicate to any other ecosystem because Ton is just Ton. Like there's no like
it's like a completely unique
infrastructure. Yes, ecosystem, and the way it operates, like from logic perspective and the chain itself, it's also very much different. But for example, we created Fuel VM, where over there the language is Sway,
right?
Which is very much similar to Move, right? So when we created the Sway one, already the Move one was way easier because they share a lot of like similarities, right? So it's also like a benefit.
Interesting. So in terms of like the new networks that come online, if they want to use Redstone, what does that process like look like? Like if I'm building my own blockchain, like you saw Sony recently launch their own blockchain, et cetera, and they want to leverage Redstone, like what does that process look like?
Good question. So there are two models that we support that are the most popular ones: the push Oracle that is chain compatible, and the pull Oracle, where you deliver price feeds together with the transaction of the user. We have some other models like X specific for perps and custom models, but those are like for specific use cases. In terms of Sonium, it's an L2 on top of Ethereum with OP stack, which is fairly standard. So we just get connected with them and discuss the needs of theirs. They said that in an initial phase, the pull model is going to be enough. Like they didn't need the configuration of the push model just yet because they also try to figure out how the DeFi ecosystem is going to look over there, because it's a very much different nature of the chain than, I don't know, Arbitrum or Base, where it's very much DeFi. Those are DeFi focused. Sonium, I'm not sure if they will go so hardcore around DeFi, right? They are Japan oriented mainly, like at least that region. Gaming is big over there, so those are a bit different needs in that term. But whenever a new ecosystem is connected with us, we try to understand like what VM it is. Is it something that we are familiar with or not? And we have to create like a dedicated connector. Then if it should be push or pull model, sometimes pull is enough. And push is an extension of pull. So if you decide on the push model, pull model goes out of the box. So it's at least nice to get both of them when you decide on the push one. And then we scope out the timeline and what feeds are necessary. If it's just, I don't know, free feeds like ETH, Bitcoin, and USD, or maybe USDC, sorry, or you maybe need something more sophisticated. For example, for Bera chain, that should happen fairly soon in terms of mainnet. They call it Q5. Hope they are going to make it in the Q5. I think we are going to deliver like 25 feeds from day one. So it's pretty extensive because it's a big ecosystem and builders just kept asking us about that. Each of those configurations like come with some costs, but because we are sharing a lot of infrastructure, the cost that we are quoting against, for example, Chainlink is like way more reasonable because we don't want to we want to create something that is sustainable, but also not extort the clients themselves. So this is in general the approach.
Got it. I want to pivot now to a discussion around AI. So I want to first start with Charles. There has been, a lot of things happening in the software industry, period, with AI over the last few years. You're starting to see AI essentially be a part of every application, every web and mobile application for the most part in some way. It's either integrated into their actual like UI in the background and a service. It's just being used like all over the place. So we're now starting to see more and more AI discussions happening in the crypto space. I'm curious, like, what your thoughts are around everything happening with AI and agents, and how EtherFi might, be suited or thinking about helping facilitate all of this stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a really kind of exciting and fast-paced rotation of narratives, kind of outcoming from that sector at the moment with the crossover. Ultimately, I'm a strong believer of the underlying thesis that crypto is best suited for AI in terms of interacting with assets as well as monetary value. And with that, I think there's going to be a real blossoming of utility over time once the right structures and architecture are put in place. I feel that a lot of these, call it meme versions of AI right now, where a lot of them are essentially wrappers around ChatGPT, are good for getting awareness to the topic and to the space, but we'll be able to harness that in a much more productive way after we have a bit more time to digest the implications of it. I'd also say from the EtherFi side, trying to explore a couple different ways that we can interact with all these tools and pieces coming out. There's a couple of fronts that has been interesting, at least on my radar. I would say from the slashing point of view on EigenLayer, it's going to be a very impactful upgrade once that comes online to understand how the risk and reward side of restaking rebalances itself. And given that this is going to be a 24/7 operations service, as well as a lot of kind of financial collateral in place, I was looking around kind of different toolings we could actually utilize for thinking about the automatic management and switching of delegations between different AVSs over time. And so monitoring what are the risk parameters around operations there, as well as what is the collateral we have at stake. Outside of that, I think something a little bit more fun and retail friendly is trying to hook up to our DeFi vaults, something around kind of an AI managed vault product. And so with that, I think there's a lot of low hanging fruits with the rise of Hyperliquid, with a lot of kind of on-chain volume perps assets that you can access there. And I think there's a way you can kind of combine the different pieces to be able to capture either basis trade on ETH and BTC, or funding rates on different alts, and ultimately have a product that is difficult to compete with from an actively managed point of view.
Marcin, what about yourself? How are you thinking about AI and how you all might be able to kind of facilitate that, or it might be just more of the nature of the products and teams that are using Redstone? That's more of like an application layer type of thing.
Let me open ChatGPT and ask. Wait. Right. AI is probably something that we cannot omit these days. And yeah, I believe it's going to increasingly be impacting how DeFi, Web3, and crypto is operating. That's also the reason we created Clara. Clara is a new framework that is on top of AO, the computer. So maybe to explain to folks that are not familiar, there is a chain called Arweave that is dedicated for permanent storage. So you can save files or other data over there. On top of, like, related to Arweave is AO, the computer, that is going to launch mainnet in a couple of days, 8th of February. It's going to be next.
Oh, wow. That's soon.
Next Saturday. Yeah, it's soon, especially that they announced that date, I believe, like 10 months ago. So 10 months ago, they already said, hey, this is going to be the mainnet date, and it's coming actually this next Saturday.
That might be the first time in history anyone's actually hit a milestone in software development history for 10 months out.
I hope so. I mean, for all of those months, there was like this big counter on the website. So I hope it doesn't explode at the moment it hits 0. Yeah, but the way right now AI agents in crypto operate is that they do not communicate with each other much outside of Twitter. So usually their communication is AI XDB is writing something on Twitter, and then another AI bot is answering to that. So there are a couple of problems over here. One is all that communication is very much public. So Twitter has never been created a place for more private conversations. So something that shouldn't go to everyone's eye. 2, Twitter as the medium has never been created for people to chat with each other, like communicate in that form, especially with a lot of messages. And 3, there's no way to exchange value with each other. So these AI agents can communicate, but they cannot send tokens. What we created with Clara is an environment where they can, for example, create a flow that one AI agent says to the other, hey, if you are going to promote that particular token, let's call it token X, I am going to send you 1 BIP of the total supply of the token that has been created. So efficiently, you can create a kind of like AI agent KOL marketplace for people to buy their resources in terms of mindshare. That is also right now a very interesting meta via Kaito, cookie free, and other tools that are trying to measure like what people are talking about on Twitter and what they're excited about. And then it can create a flow where, for example, projects that are approaching TGE can just, instead of going to regular calls, KOLs, and trying to get some deals with them and for retweeting or whatsoever, go even to the public marketplace and say, okay, I'm going to pay you that and that, with that and that vesting, for example. So you keep on tweeting with that, let's say, interval about the specific content. So we are pretty excited about what's going to happen with Clara. The first receipt was very enthusiastic. So we chatted with Virtuals, with Eliza, with other major frameworks that are out there. And we'll keep expanding on that front. On the Oracle side, it's not so immediate, I would say. So we utilize AI right now for outliers detection when it comes to sourcing feeds. But we don't want AI to deliver price feeds on chain because it's usually a black box. So there's a high chance. There's
you
a high
need something more objective.
Exactly. There's a high chance they're going to get like a black swan. They're going to throw like completely random data on chain, and there's going to be a disaster. So for oracles, one faulty update can truly trigger like millions, if not billions, of liquidations, right? If right now, for example, Redstone delivered of ETH USD on all the chains a data that is 40% lower or higher of ETH, it could have caused a lot of problems.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. So Clara sounds really interesting. I'm curious, and we're gonna wrap it up after this probably, but in terms of the usage of something like Clara, is it an SDK or is it an actual protocol that someone would leverage? And what would the developer experience look like on a very high level?
Yeah, so actually let me first try to present.
Yeah, sure.
Share screen.
You should be able to have access to it.
Wow, this is the first time on StreamYard I'm presenting the screen. Does it work?
Yeah, we see your Twitter.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, so basically, this is the announcement of Clara, where we try to, like, in general, explain like what the framework is capable of doing and how it works. So if you type Redstone Oracles Clara, it is going to be probably delivered. And we also created the first tutorial YouTube video. Actually, we are going to announce it tomorrow, but happy to already share over here. Maybe I can send a link later in the comments of this space. Wait, so it's over here. Share this tab instead. Yeah, so okay, we published that even 3 days ago, but haven't announced it yet. So we created a whole tutorial, like how to basically start utilizing Clara with the Eliza AI agent
Can you
support.
expand your screen a little bit?
Oh yeah, sure.
There we go.
Yeah, so it's a full tutorial where you can go step by step, like how to set it up and interact with specific SDKs that are dealing with AI agents, and then you can see like how the interactions are populated on AO itself.
Very nice.
Oh yeah, so here actually is like an example of a Matrix, Neo, and Mr. Smith like chatting with each other. Still on Twitter, but they can exchange the value on the.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
Yeah,
I'm gonna definitely be taking a look at that then. So you said there's going to be an official announcement, or it already has been officially announced?
Clara has been announced, the first use case. Right now we are working on it. So we want to also bring the next announcement something like, hey, this is what you can build with it. So we were thinking about creating a Trump family, like how they came up about the meme coin launch or something around it. That would be interesting to see how AI would replicate the thought model over there. So, giving the context, hey, in 3 days, Trump is going to be announced the president. Tell us like how it came about, like creating the meme coin itself, and see how AI would be behaving over there. But yeah, like the opportunities are limitless, as you know.
So this product was built by the Redstone team, and it uses the AO framework or the AO computer, whatever you call that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and the reason for that is 4 years ago when Jacob was starting, actually Redstone was named Limestone. That was her first name. But then there was another project called Limestone that asked us to change the name, and we respected that and decided to switch to Redstone, which is, by the way, cooler name in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
I
then
think so too.
he came out of incubation program of Arweave. So we are very close with the Arweave team, like Sam, the founder, and like also the whole ecosystem over there. And we believe Arweave and AO are excellent, like, very cool technologies, and we just build on top of them.
Awesome. Well, this has been really great. I definitely learned a lot. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. So as we finish this off, Charles and Marcin, I'll ask Charles to go first. Is there anything that you want to close with, or do you have any call to actions for people to maybe learn more about some of the stuff that you're working on now and in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say best collaboration between the both of us would be go participate in our vaults for Berachain for BTC and for ETH, depending on asset of your preference. We're going to be doing a lot of fun things there with proof of liquidity, and have quite enough bootstrapped to get that flywheel kicked off. So if you are within the Bear space, would recommend checking it out.
Yeah, from our side, there's a lot of exciting announcements that are coming next week. I can tease that the next 2 weeks, roughly, are going to be one of the most intense for the Redstone team and what's going to happen out there. Yesterday was naturally the announcement of the AVS itself. Today, I also posted a beefy post around like how DeFi evolved, where actually I also tap into Ethereum being the home of DeFi, but right now many other ecosystems also experience tremendous growth in that category. And yeah, well, what can I tell you? Right now on the AVS, you can restake Eigen, but very soon you will be also restake some other cool token. But more soon, if you want to learn, follow Redstone_DeFi, and myself also, like Marcin Redstone, will be sharing over Twitter.
Awesome. Yeah, highly recommend to follow both of them, both Redstone and Marcin, and definitely on EtherFi's side as well. Check out their feed and any of the people active in that community as well if you want to keep up with what they're doing. So that wraps it up. Thanks for your time today, Charles and Marcin. For anyone watching, thanks for checking this out. We're going to be providing links to a lot of the things that we talked about in our YouTube channel. So if you missed part of this, or if you want to watch this later, just check out the video on YouTube. It's already up, and we'll be having the links ready later. We'll actually be back soon today with some other stuff on the Eigenlayer channel. So keep an eye out for that, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks a lot for having us out there.